Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Boost Customer Reviews and Drive Sales Too. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our search engine optimization, best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. Recently at NADA, DealerOn received the Best in Show Award for Website Design from Dealer Marketing Magazine. DealerOn was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2012 and 2013, and DealerOn customers have been winners of the Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards highly coveted overall winner 4 times in a row. Yeah, DealerOn's the only website company that can claim that. DealerOn is so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So, does your website company guarantee you leads? Well, then maybe you should check us out at DealerOn.com. And we have such a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Heather MacKinnon as our presenter today. Heather MacKinnon is Vice President of National Accounts at DealerRater, an online reputation management solution that has helped thousands of dealers build a positive and profitable online presence. Heather is a recognized thought leader and author in the area of online reputation management and an in-demand speaker at automotive industry conferences and dealer associations throughout the United States and Canada. As the premier dealer review website, DealerRater maintains 43% more dealer reviews than Google+, Yelp, Yahoo Local, Cars.com, and Edmunds combined. Heather has been offering online automotive solutions to dealers for the past 10 years and has worked in key positions at Autotrader.com, Data One Software, and CitySearch. Heather is passionate about bringing long-term solutions to dealers to help them grow their business, and she can be reached at heather@DealerRater.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, we're going to respond by email to you later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is also going to be emailed to you later this evening for your reference, and please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Oh, and by the way, we've got great news for all you attendees out there today. Our good friends at DealerRater are going to be awarding a prize to one of you lucky attendees today. What is it? Well, one of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win an iPad mini. And yeah, this prize is valued at $350. So if you want to win this awesome prize, then stay tuned. All you have to do is be the first one with the correct answer in our quiz at the end of today's presentation. And if you are, you're going to be walking away with this awesome prize. And if that wasn't enough, also at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. And today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. Oh yeah, we're going to have some fun today, so let's get started. Let's learn about how to boost customer reviews and drive sales too. Heather MacKinnon, how are you today? Guten Tag.
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for that really nice warm welcome. I'm thrilled to be here today. I love this webinar series. I think DealerOn does a fantastic job hosting these, so I'm very happy and appreciate being a part of it. Let's get right to it. The objectives today, this whole session is really going to focus on the offensive side of reputation. I think a lot of dealers, when they look at reputation strategies, they think about reputation in a defensive sense, it really as a means to protect themselves online, where really at DealerRater, our kind of mantra has always been, these reviews are very powerful material for you to put out there in front of your unsold prospects to really gain a competitive edge in your market. So this whole session is going to revolve, it's not going to be Reputation 101, it's really going to revolve around proactive, very offensive reputation strategies to drive more business and more prospects through the door. So just some objectives. We're going to first go over some recent results of a Polk study that was performed. And essentially this Polk study was performed, it takes a look at measuring the average impact a dealer's star ratings has on new vehicle registrations. And, you know, quite frankly, a big question in the industry over the past year or two is, you know, we're spending a ton of money, a ton of energy on online reputation solutions. does this really provide an ROI for the dealer? So that was really the question that was posed to Polk, and we've got some good highlights from that study. And then from there, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of spitting out best practices, I'm really going to focus on a series of interviews that we performed. So I've got some videos to show you of dealers, and these are general managers, dealer principals, salespeople, and they're all talking about how they're utilizing the review content to essentially get in front of more consumer eyeballs and drive more business into the door, both on the sales and service side. And then we're going to finish it off, of course, with a question and answer session. So just some quick kind of recent stats here to keep everybody up to date. Many of you might have seen these before. 75% of all in-market consumers are conducting research on the web before walking into a dealership, and that number increases, I think, every time I see it. Then 89% of car buyers are going online to verify recommendations or reviews before purchasing a vehicle. And again, not really a shock. You know, if you think about the culture today, consumers are highly influenced by third-party content of all different kinds, right? If you're booking a hotel or a restaurant or buying a flat screen, it's what other consumers have to say about the product or service that ultimately helps the consumer make the decision. And 4 out of 5 consumers aren't moving ahead with a purchase based upon negative reviews. And again, when we're talking about automotive, consumers are typically skeptical when they're doing their research, right? They're anticipating a negative experience, and they also have a bunch of choices as to where they can buy. So oftentimes they're moving past the dealers that have negative reviews and favoring the dealers that have the more positive. And 59% of car shoppers say they feel more positive about dealers who are responding to negatives. So again, this is not going to be a 101 type of session, but I do just want to say a critical piece of reputation that I see often overlooked is that ability to publicly post responses to negatives. Almost every site out there gives you the ability to do this, and it's critical. Okay, very important to have negative reviews out there because they paint a much more transparent, realistic picture of your dealership. It's just imperative to make sure that you are responding publicly to those because consumers like to see that you're paying attention, that you care about the consumer. Okay, a little bit about this background. Now again, I've been with DealerRater for 5 years now, and DealerRater's actually been around for 10. So we've been in this business for a while. You know, we work with dealers. I have the pleasure of talking to salespeople almost every day, and over the past 5 years, I've certainly heard from a lot of dealers. They'll tell me how much star ratings, reviews are helping their business, right? It's a great closing tool, but there's never really been a direct tie between star ratings and new vehicle sales. Okay, so essentially it's been a big question in the industry from vendors to dealers to the OEMs are asking what kind of ROI can we put towards reputation. So we went to Polk, knowing they're kind of the experts, and we asked them a couple questions. We said, number one, how are franchise dealership star ratings, how do they affect sales performance? Okay, and number two, we looked at our dealers on DealerRater, and there's 2 different kinds of dealers on our site. There's certified dealers and non-certified dealers, and this is in no way, shape, or form a commercial for certification. I just want to clarify it. The certified dealers on our site, they essentially subscribe to like a toolkit that helps them build and monitor and really promote their online reviews. So with that said, the certified dealers typically have more reviews than uncertified dealers. Okay, so we also wanted to see if being a certified dealer affected sales performance too. So we turned over all of our data to Polk, which was ratings and reviews and all that kind of data, and then they analyzed it against almost 8,000 dealers across the country. And as you know, Polk has access to all the new vehicle registrations, so this took into account over 1 million new vehicle registrations. And the study period that was involved was the registrations January through September 2012 versus January through September 2011. How did they compare? So the first result, and again, these are not complete results. If you're interested in getting access to this full Polk study, I can certainly make that available to Eliana or can make it available if dealers request it from me. But just some highlights. So the first thing was looking at the average star rating. Okay, do the dealers with a higher average star rating perform better? And the dealers with a 4.0 or higher were experiencing a 21% greater increase in sales compared to dealerships with an average of a 2.0 or less. And I think this goes back to those previous stats that, you know, if 89% of consumers are online and they're checking out reviews and 4 out of 5 are moving past dealers or not buying from dealers with negatives, this kind of tells that story right here, right? The dealers that show a 4.0 or higher are getting more attention than those that don't. And then when we looked at our certified dealers, and again, these are dealers that have typically more reviews than uncertified, they had 23% greater increase in new car sales during that study period than non. And the group of dealers that participated in what we call a 360 certified program, these are dealers that essentially they manage not just DealerRater reviews, but we give them access to Google reviews and Yelp reviews and Edmunds reviews, and we kind of give them the tools to promote all of those reviews publicly. Those dealers were seeing an even greater average of 50%. So in essence, the certified dealers were selling about 6 more cars per month after 12 months of joining that program. Eliana, I think it's time for a poll question.
Audience, if you're ready, we are too. We're going to launch our first poll question today, and it's up on your screen, so please turn to your screen and answer this question for us. What process does your dealership currently use to build positive reviews? And please just select one of the following answers. Do you ask your happy customers in sales and or service to post reviews? Do you ask every customer in sales and or service to post? Do you send emails to your customers asking them to write reviews? Do you use a third-party marketing company to solicit reviews? Or you just don't ask for reviews? Whatever the answer is, we want to know. And once we get a majority of the votes from today's current audience, we are going to close the poll and share the results, and then you're going to be able to find out what everyone else is doing. So votes are still coming in. And, you know, Heather, before we get to the answers, because the votes are still coming in, so I'm curious, the first and second responses, they ask only the happy customers, or they ask every customer? Which one would you recommend?
Great question. So in the beginning, typically what we recommend when we train a dealer is we say, okay, in the beginning you certainly want to be somewhat insulated. So if you're just starting out building reviews on, say, cars.com or Google, it's always good to kind of go to those happy customers that you have a history with and put out the request for a review. Because if anything, you do want to insulate yourself in the beginning, build kind of a little stockpile of positive reviews. After that, I'd say after you get maybe 20, 30 reviews, you really should open it up and make it part of the delivery process, part of every closeout of every service RO, because you really need to make sure that you do have some negatives in there. I think the worst thing you could do is try to achieve a perfect score on a third-party review site, because the consumer isn't going to believe that.
Yeah, it looks fake if everyone is just, it looks like you put them up there yourselves, even though I'm sure.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, let's see what our audience said. We have 29% of today's audience, a large portion of today's audience, said that they ask their happy customers in sales and or service. 21% of today's audience said that they ask every customer in sales and service. Another 21% said that they send emails to their customers asking them to write reviews. 17% said they use a third-party marketing company to solicit reviews. And only 12% of today's audience said that they currently don't ask for reviews. Is that what you were expecting, Heather?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was expecting. I would definitely like to see that percentage of dealers asking every customer to increase, only because I think that, you know, the culture today is consumers find their way to third-party review sites oftentimes whether you're asking them or not, right? If somebody's, you know, trying a new restaurant or going to a hotel, I mean, people just navigate now or gravitate towards third parties. So we find that it's a great way to really find out how the consumer's experience was, you know, and that asking every customer definitely is going to paint a much more transparent picture for your prospects to see in regard to those reviews online.
Yes, and audience, thank you so much for participating in this poll question. We're going to have another couple poll questions for you coming up, so stay tuned. Thank you so much, Heather. Let's keep going.
All right, so what I'm going to be going through here is I mentioned that I have a series of videos, and in these videos, really what they do is they focus in on the different strategies that dealers are using to not only build reviews, but really to offensively promote reviews. So as discussed, we did some interviews. Just a quick disclaimer here. I did interview certified dealers. Okay, these dealers that I interviewed are certified dealers on DealerRater. But I do just want to say that these strategies that they're using, they're not exclusive to being a certified dealer. You can use these strategies on any review site. If you're choosing to build your content on Cars or Google, you can certainly use these strategies. And also, you don't have to be a certified dealer to build reviews on DealerRater. Any dealer can. Okay, so I want to make sure, because there is going to be some mention of DealerRater, because these dealers are choosing DealerRater and perhaps other sites, definitely in Bozard's case, to build. I want to give you kind of a little background there. All right, so let's talk to Jeff. He's going to be going over how to create a strong but simple reputation strategy.
When we first started doing this, I hired a new internet manager. At the time, we were selling about 8 cars a month. And he said, we use DealerRater at the store I came from, and I really think we ought to get on it. And we did okay for the first couple months. We got ourselves 30 or 40 reviews, and then it kind of died off a little bit. Next 2 months, and we kind of worked it really hard, and we got ourselves up over 100, 150 reviews. And then it just started feeding on itself. You know, the employees started doing it on their own, and we don't have to ask them to solicit reviews anymore. It's something that they do almost automatically. At one point, we were reading every DealerRater review aloud in the sales meeting and service meetings. And when we started getting so many, we couldn't physically read them all. But we select several reviews every week and read them aloud in front of the other employees. And when we get a especially shining review, we email that review to all of our employees so they can see what the other people are doing. We have probably 15 monitors in the showroom and service department and service lane, and we use some of the online reviews as video, and they're played, if not the whole review, at least an excerpt from the review. We advertise our DealerRater #1 ranking in several different medias, and internally people, when they come into the showroom or they come into the service lane, they're going to see our DealerRater reviews on the televisions throughout the dealership. We don't advertise price. We don't advertise payment. We advertise ourselves as the #1 rated dealer on DealerRater. That is basically all we have advertised for the last 2 years. We now are the largest dealer in our city, regardless of brand, and have surpassed the Ford dealerships in our area that used to do twice the business we did. We're now 30, 40% ahead of them. Again, the only thing that we have done on radio, print, or TV is advertise our status on DealerRater. I think employees will really start to buy in when they become appreciated for the job that they do. And we publicly read the DealerRater comments and then distribute them throughout our own email. And sometimes we'll put their DealerRater reviews actually either online on our website, on the video screens across our dealership, or we put some of them in the newspaper in print. And when they get to see their own name in there and somebody, a third party, telling them how great they did and that they did an outstanding job, it's got to make them feel good. On sales appointment, we're doing about a third of our business over the internet, and when our internet customers see our online reviews, we have them traveling from 200, 300, 400 miles away to come buy cars. And we think that a lot of the success to that, they understand that they can come in, they read the reviews, they realize the car is going to be the way it's supposed to be, and there's not going to be any hassle or any changing of the price. Our employees definitely benefit from the reviews. For example, the internet employees, when they're dealing with the customer, they can send them a link to their reviews and have the customer become instantly comfortable with the type of treatment that they're going to receive based on what past people have said about them. At the end of 2010, we were averaging 8 cars a month on the internet. We started on DealerRater right around that same time. Within about 9 months, we were up over 40 cars a month on the internet, and currently this last month we did 128. We have gone from selling a little under 100 cars a month to this last month we just finished up with 317. In our service business in the last 2 years, our RO count is up over 50%. There's definitely a correlation between our online reviews and our sales and service business. We have several customers that after they read reviews online, they decided to make the trip here, and that they found that the experience was exactly as they were told it would be. And I think that's where the biggest success for our online activity comes from.
All right, so let's break this that Jeff's using is a very simple strategy, and that's the thing with reputation strategies is I personally believe, and certainly have felt this way and have seen successes over the past 5 years, is that the strategy itself should be very simple. And I think because there's so much noise in the industry, especially over the past couple of years, reputation solutions and management has become such a popular term, but it's almost become more confusing than what it needs to be. So it should be very simple, right? And it should also be very low cost. It should be inexpensive to really promote your reputation, right? And also it should be something that you really can engage your staff in, build something in it for them. So let's start off with how did he decide which sites to focus on? And again, a lot of noise about this, right? Some companies recommend you should focus on 15 different review sites. Well, here's what he did, and this is what I recommend. Go to Google, okay? Type in the name of your dealership. What shows up on page 1? Those are the sites that should get your focus. Why? Because a consumer, they look at page 1. They don't go beyond it because consumers now know, regardless of what they're looking for, the most relevant information is going to be there for them to see on page 1. So in his case, he chose Google to focus on, certainly, because they're always going to be number 1. And then in his case, DealerRater. Okay, but it might be different in your market. You might find Edmunds, you might find Yelp, but really focus in, and not just focus in, but dominate, right? When you narrow it down to just a couple choices, it allows you to really dominate these sites versus just having a watered down approach. And in terms of these searches, just to kind of clarify here, so the vast majority of search traffic actually comes from dealer name search. Okay, so 65% of search traffic is directory. So people typing in Bozard Ford, as opposed to 35% is coming from keyword, people typing in things like Ford dealers St. Augustine. So while it's important to understand what kind of content comes under the keyword, really critical to own and dominate the directory search, the name of your dealership. Okay. Secondly, he had to get buy-in, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation with dealers. Heather, I'm never going to be able to get my employees to do this. I'm going to have to spiff them. They're never going to do it on their own. Jeff mentioned that he doesn't even have to ask his employees to get reviews. So how does this happen? He mentioned recognizing his employees. Every week, his sales and service meetings, he prints out the reviews from the week, whether they came in on Google or they came in on DealerRater. Prints them out, recognizes them. So who doesn't like to get accolades from your upper manager in front of your peers? Right? That's what motivates people, right? And the real glowing emails, he shoots out over email, okay, the real glowing reviews, shoots it out over email for his entire staff to see. So it helps to build this real kind of competitive, fun culture around the review process. On his website, I love this, he's got a staff page. And in my opinion, staff pages are very underutilized. It's a page where people like to go, especially in automotive. Consumers want to see who potentially they're going to be working with, whether it's in sales or service. So he doesn't just have pictures up here and titles. He's got actual links to third-party reviews about each employee. So as a consumer, your eyeballs are going to gravitate towards the salesperson, in this case, with the highest number of reviews, right? You're going to want to work with that person.
I got to say, Heather, that is pretty cool. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I mean, it's human nature, right? So you're going to look at this page and say, okay, Tom's my guy, and you're going to try to make an appointment with Tom. And if you can't get Tom, you're probably going to go for Bruce, who's got the next highest. And really what that does, it's very subtle, because it's great for the consumer, but for the employees, they are battling to be top dog. And you want that. You want your salespeople, your service writers to be battling to have the number of reviews. That's the kind of culture, you really want to build. Very unique in fact, I've not heard of this, and I love it, is that he's got monitors in the showroom. I unfortunately don't have the name of a vendor for this type of monitor, but it's a feel-good monitor. It's in the showroom. It's in the service lounge. It scrolls across different information about Beaux-Art Ford, but a big piece of it is it scrolls across third-party content. And for the employee, you want to see your name in lights. So it's a great way to, in essence, spiff your employee by featuring the top-rated salesperson for the week or for the month. You feature them on the monitors. I love what he's doing with his print ads. He does this, incidentally, with his print and online ads. He's buying the space. Instead of just putting up a branded ad, he's actually mentioning that he's the top-rated dealer on a third-party review site, but he's taking snippets of actual reviews from his top-rated sales guy for the month, and he's featuring his picture in the ad. So instead of paying out Tom to get these reviews, spiff money, he's incentivizing him by saying, hey, whoever's top-rated for the week or for the month is going to be featured in our ad on AutoTrader or Cars.com or the local paper. Okay? Really compelling, too, for the consumer when they see that. On his website, he features third-party content. Jeff mentioned this. For those of you on the phone, if you currently have a testimonial page on your website and it's not powered by third party, it's probably not believable. Okay, you know, we're in automotive here. People tend to kind of have their defenses up. They don't, you know, they're skeptical to begin with. So if it's not a third party referenced page, they're oftentimes going to think it's either cherry picked or falsely put in there by the dealer. Okay, so you got to have third party. I don't care where they come from, if it's Cars, if it's Google, Edmunds, Yelp, but it's got to have third party association if you want consumers to believe it. And Beaux-Art talked about all they do is promote their rating on DealerRater, which that's the only bit of kind of content that they put into their advertising. So why do they do that? Okay, let's take a look at a recent Nielsen study. And it took a look at a group of participants and asked them, to what extent do you trust the following form of advertising? So they listed everything from print to TV to radio to online to billboard. The number one trusted form of advertising, according to these attendees or these participants, was recommendations from people I know, so peer-to-peer. And second to that was consumer opinions posted online. So that's what people believe nowadays. That is really what drives consumers' decisions. In fact, many of you on the phone are probably driven by third-party reviews. So Beaux-Art runs with that, right? They don't just advertise price or payment or brand. Every ad, TV, print, radio, features the fact that they're top-rated on a third-party review site. And people want to ultimately do business with the best. If they're going to buy a Ford, they're already skeptical. They're going to want to work with what consumers feel is the best Ford dealer around. Okay, so again with the strategy, you don't have to be Dealer of the Year to promote this strategy. That's an award that we award every year on DealerRater. It's by nation and by region. We award dealers this Dealer of the Year award. You don't have to be that, right? You could be the top-rated Honda dealer in Charlotte and promote that on your advertising. Or you could be the top-rated dealer on Edmunds. It really just, again, helps to break down those barriers and differentiates you from the other stores in your market. Okay, Eliana, time for another poll question.
Why, yes, it is. Heather, by the way, I want to tell you, we're getting so many great comments from all of those ideas that Beaux-Art is doing. People are writing in, I love that. Where do I get those monitors? I mean, all kinds of
awesome.
stuff.
That's good.
So they're loving what you're showing so far. So, audience, we're going to launch the second poll question. Here we go. We want to know, does your dealership currently promote your positive reviews in front of your prospects? Please select all of the ones that apply. So yeah, we promote our reviews and reputation in our advertising. Or yes, we promote those reviews on our website. Or yes, we proactively email our reviews out to our prospects. Or yes, hey, we even post them on our social media sites. Or is the answer no? We didn't think about doing that yet. Whatever the answer is, once we get a majority of the votes from you, our fine audience today, we're going to close this poll and share the results, and then we're going to be able to find out what everyone else is doing. Heather, seriously, where do you get those monitors? No idea?
You know, I'm going to research that. I'll actually probably just go back to Jeff. and find out where he is getting those, because I love them. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, because I had Jessica wrote in. She says ABN has monitors like that display the testimonials. So I don't know if they sell them or whatever, but apparently Jessica knows for a fact that Automotive Broadcasting Network does that same thing. And now we are going to check on these polls. Ooh, thank you so much, audience, for voting. Here we go. We're going to close this poll and share the results. So the winner is 63% of today's audience said that they promote their reviews and reputation on their website. That's pretty good. I like that.
Very good.
49%, so almost half of today's audience, said that they post those reviews on their social media sites. 22% said that they proactively email their reviews out to prospects. And 17% said that they promote their reviews and reputation in their advertising. And another 17% just said no. They're not doing anything with those reviews. They're not promoting them at all. So what do you think the audience should be doing? Is it one of those, hey, I wish you were doing all those things?
Well, number one, I think that you have to have something to tell, right? So you need to first focus on where you can be the best. And if you have the opportunity on whether it's DealerRater or Google or Edmunds to be the top-rated dealer in your region, you should strive for that. Okay, so number one, you've got to kind of have a goal, go for it, and achieve it. Then number two, I think you should be advertising it. You know, going back to that Nielsen poll, that's what consumers trust. And if you think about the market for automotive, consumers are typically shopping multiple dealers. When you put yourself as a top-rated dealer on a third-party review site, that is a differentiator. Okay, that's what makes a consumer drive a little bit further to do business with you. It just separates you from the pack. So I've seen it work in super metro markets and remote markets. It just is it's a strategy that works very, very well for dealers.
I mean, I just don't see a downside to promoting those positive reviews.
I don't see how you could. You're buying the space, right? Whether it's radio, print, online, you're buying it, right? And so many, you know, unfortunately, a lot of dealers, they just put up kind of real, you know, static ads or the real, like, kind of stereotypical type advertising that consumers glaze over when they hear. You know, when you give them a reason to choose you, especially when it's what other customers are saying about that dealer, that's usually what makes them, you know, put in a call to action. That's a great call to action.
I agree. Let's go. What else do we have? We're getting questions in from our audience already. So, audience, if you got questions for Heather, hey, don't wait to ask them. Just send them on in. We'll hold them all until the very end of Heather's presentation, and we'll get rocking and rolling. Thank you so much for voting in our poll. We got one more coming to you in a little bit. And Heather, take it away.
Okay. All right. So the next video, short video, this time I'm going to talk to Jim McGinn and Kurt Lyle, who are two salespeople. Okay. Jim works at Germain BMW. Kurt works at a Kia dealer in Tennessee. And what I did here is I really wanted to focus in on how do the salespeople utilize this review content to actually differentiate themselves amongst other salespeople, you know, in competitive dealers? How do they do that? And I think that's the evolution to me of reputation. It's not just about the dealership's reputation. It's about the people that work within the dealership. What's their reputation like? Because it's a people business, right? People want to feel comfortable with the service writer, with the salesperson. So we're going to talk to these two guys. They're going to tell you how they're using it. And again, these guys you will hear some DealerRater mentioned, but I do just want to say you don't have to use that as the method to deliver what they're talking about here. They're just using the example that they're currently using today. So let's take a listen.
I believe reviews have helped me to book more appointments because typically if I meet somebody and they don't buy a car that day, if they're a new customer that came into the dealership and they didn't end up buying, typically what I'll do, I'll end up sending a follow-up email to them that day along with a link where at the end of all my emails I'll say, you know, it was great meeting you. To learn more about me and learn a little bit of what customers have to say about me, please click on the link below. that's proven to be something just very good for my business because people just get a good sense that I'm not just telling them something. I have third-party information out of the words of my existing customer base that's assuring them that I'll follow up with them, but the experience will be a good one. I did experience a customer that came to me because, well, he didn't come to me because of something in my bio, but it just helped build, a better relationship. After we met, I sent him the link to my DealerRater. He replied saying that we're probably not going to be able to work together because I see you went to Boston College and I went to Holy Cross. So it was just good. I have some things in my bio that shares, information about me, my dogs, where I went to college, etc. I just think it makes people feel much more comfortable about working with me.
In my sales process, probably the first thing that I do is I use them to help me close appointments. On my email trailers and in certain emails, I will have a line that says, read what my customers have to say about doing business with me here, and it'll have a link to my DealerRater page. Additionally, I have a video email that I use that's got a video embedded in it. In the end of that video, it has videos of customers, and then it also has a link to the DealerRater page. Okay, additionally, what I do is after I do a sit-down consult for about 5 to 10 minutes with my customers and ask them what they'd like to accomplish today, I generally will take that information over to my desk manager and let them know what we're trying to get done. And while I'm away from the desk, I have printed copies of all my reviews in an evidence manual. And I open that up and I tell them that this is what people have said about doing business with me. You don't know me very well. I'd like you to get to know me better and be more comfortable. My goal is to make sure that when we get done, you have the same kind of experience these people did.
All right. Okay. Let's take a look at these takeaways here too. I can't emphasize this enough, is that if 75% of people now are researching a dealer and making their decisions outside of the showroom, your ability to really have that greeting is minimized, right? Because the consumer is making decisions on what brand to buy, on what dealership to shop. So the dealers that are putting online bios on their website, here's an example of a GM store. This is actually a Canadian dealer. They've got this really fun kind of homegrown bio page where they have a video, 2-3 minute fun video about each employee, a little bit of personal information about the employees, some professional information, and then links out to prominent review sites, DealerRater and Google. Okay, when a consumer is shopping this particular GM store, they're probably shopping one or two others. This is the difference maker, right? This makes me feel like, I know John a little bit better, and I don't know the salesperson at the other dealership. So it just is that little bit, that subtle difference that makes that consumer feel more comfortable, number one, and then the link to the third-party content is usually what seals the deal. Jeff and Jim talked about utilizing DealerRater in this case, but again, any form of reviews will work for this. If a consumer didn't buy today, they most likely left because they feel that they need to continue to shop around, right? That's the mindset. They feel they need to shop 2-3 dealers. Well, when Kurt sends out an email that says, read what customers have to say about doing business with me, that prospect is going to look so good about Kurt. But they might also seek out that kind of information about the other salespeople that they're considering at competing dealers, and they likely won't be able to find that. So again, Kurt generally gets the advantage in those cases when he sends that out. The evidence manual, that's barely ever used today. Some of the younger people on the call here might not even realize what it was, but it was a binder that every good salesperson would have an evidence manual on their desk. And it contained all kinds of good information about the dealership. And the whole point of it was to break down those barriers of mistrust when a consumer's in the showroom. So Kurt talked about the fact that he promotes the heck out of his reputation online, but he also prints out every review on Google and on DealerRater and Cars.com and puts it in a 3-ring binder. So don't forget about the people that are sitting across your desk, maybe the people that didn't do their research online. Make sure that you're getting your reviews in front of them too. I do want to bring this up. I think this study has been talked about quite a bit lately. This was a 2013 Polk Auto Trader Automotive Buyer Influence Study. These results just came out really interesting study if you can get your hands on it. One piece that I did want to bring up was talking about how social media impacts the consumer. And in this particular slide, it was talking about how social networking sites have little influence over the new and used car buyer's actual purchase decision. Okay, so 98% of people were saying, nah, I didn't use a social network site to make my decision of where to buy. But it's still a very important reputation and relationship management tool. If you think about people on Facebook, they're looking to find out what other people are doing, right? So in that sense, what I believe is a very powerful thing to do with third party is to promote third party and utilize your salespeople, right? Almost every salesperson, almost service writer, they have Facebook pages. And when a guy like Kurt feeds his latest DealerRater reviews or Edmunds reviews to his Facebook feed, it puts him very top of mind, right? So even if the people in his network are not in market to buy a car, if they have a brother or a friend or a sister that's in market, they think of this guy because he's feeding what other customers are saying about Kurt into that social network, right? So whether it's Twitter, in this case, Kurt uses everything. He uses Facebook, he tweets out his latest reviews, and then of course he uses YouTube for his video testimonials. Very, very powerful way and free way to promote your reputation. So we've got our third poll question, Elena.
Here we go, audience. I hope you're ready. Third poll question is right here. We want to know, how does your dealership currently motivate employees to ask for reviews? So please just select one of the following answers. Do you spiff your employees? Is it built into all of your employees' pay plans? Is it recognition that's given by the general manager or some other manager in meetings or maybe by email? Or do employees use individual review pages and they promote themselves? Or maybe it's none of the above. Whatever the answer is, we want to know, how does your dealership currently motivate employees to ask for reviews? So once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And the votes are still coming in, and thank you so much for participating in these poll questions. I got to say, Heather, I'm watching the votes as they're coming in. I think you're going to be surprised when you see these answers. I think you will. I could be wrong. I don't know what you're expecting, but I think you're going to be surprised because I'm surprised. So I'll tell you what, we're going to close this poll now because I think we got enough votes. We're going to close this poll, share the results with you right now. And in my opinion, astounding. 44% of my very savvy webinar audience says that their dealership doesn't do any of that stuff. Their dealership doesn't currently motivate their employees to ask reviews. 44%. Is that a lot, or is it just me?
That's a lot. No, that's a lot.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, 22% said that they spiff their employees. Another 22% says that they give recognition by the GM in meetings or by emails. And 13% of today's audience said that the employees promote themselves, basically. They have individual review pages. And no one said that it's built into their employee pay plan. And I have some people that are writing in, and for instance, Dave Sharp, he wrote in that he wrote a blog on Dealer Elite on how to, as you were saying, promote those third-party reviews that are coming in. So thank you so much for Dave. And then Tracy, she wrote, I can't even get my dealership to buy into that, to motivate the employees.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of dealers, they just don't realize that, the employees are really what's going to drive the business. And if you can motivate the employees and enable the employees to really understand that reviews are a moneymaker. That's typically what happens is once they realize, hey, I'm making money off of these reviews, then it's going to snowball. But if they don't have that understanding, then they are going to think it's just one more thing to do. So I think it's just culture, and I think more and more dealers will catch on because they'll realize that business is going to other dealers because of these types of reviews that are floating out there.
And I got to say, huge props to the employees who are using their individual review pages and promoting themselves. That's really some forward thinking. I just got to point that out.
It is.
And also, Danny wrote in, he said they had kind of a contest at their dealership. They paid $1,000 cash for anyone who could get 7 Google reviews in 30 days. I thought that was pretty good. That's pretty good, Danny.
That is pretty good. That's pretty good money for that, too. What I find, too, is sometimes in the beginning, just to kind of stir it up and get some excitement, I've seen dealers throw that kind of spiff on a program to get things started. And then typically what happens is they get it started, they pay out the spiff, but then the salespeople, or at least the savvier ones, say, hey, wait a minute, now I have this group of reviews that I can really use as a way to get in front of unsold prospects. And once they realize those are powerful and really work as closing tools, then they continue on with that, to be motivated to get reviews coming in.
And this isn't, let's just stress this, this isn't just for the salespeople. I mean, I think service would benefit from this greatly as well, don't you?
Oh, big time. In fact, and I think you're going to see in certainly the next 12 months, you're going to see service reviews really start to explode. Because, again, when a person's making the decision as to where they're going to buy that car, they got to go back and service that car. So the service reviews are oftentimes a critical piece of why they're making the decision to choose one dealership over the other. So, yeah, agreed. Service writers, we see all the time service writers utilizing, reviews in their email signatures and that type of thing, because it's a differentiator.
Thank you so much for that that idea, Danny. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for participating in our poll question. And Heather, we got a few more slides to get to, right?
Yeah, a few more slides. Okay, one more video. This is a quick one, and I'm going to be talking to Ely Duke. And Ely, great guy. He's the dealer principal of Duke Automotive, which is a GM store in Suffolk, Virginia. And Ely, like all these other dealers, and I'd say it's kind of a formula, is, he's got his employees bought in, so he's got a good number of reviews coming in consistently from a handful of different sites. He's got his salespeople, his service writers, both working on review collection on a handful of different sites that are showing up on page 1 of Google. And Ely promotes the heck out of his reputation online, on his email blasts, on his website, on his advertising. What I really want to focus in on here is talking about the consumer path. Ely is going to share an example of a consumer that made a decision to buy from Ely. And I want to walk through that a little bit, because I think oftentimes dealers don't realize third-party content is influencing a consumer, and they don't even realize it. They don't even understand how that is happening. So I'm going to break that apart a little bit after Ely's quick interview here.
Hi, I'm Ely Duke with Duke Automotive in Suffolk, Virginia. How do you use reviews to close appointments and sales? That's real simple. We use them to endorse the dealership, our people, and our reputation. We have a lot of people that choose to buy from us that don't live right here in Suffolk and come to us from Williamsburg or Richmond sometimes, Northeast North Carolina. And they have to pass 2 or 3 Chevy stores to get here. We find many times that that customer had read our reviews, learned about our reputation, and the consistent good customer service we provided through the review process, and that's what's helped us. We just recently had 2 customers come to us and flew from Charlotte, North Carolina to purchase a pre-owned Yukon XL. And I got to speak with the lady in the showroom, and then later on that evening I did her finance paperwork for her. And I got to talking to her, why did you come here from Charlotte? And she said, I read your reviews online on your website, then went to the DealerRater website, and she read back through our reviews over the last year and saw the consistent customer service that we provided to people, and our reputation was consistent. And she basically said, we bought because after reading their reviews, we could trust they were the right dealership for us to purchase our Yukon from. So I think that right there, that the reviews do the job for us, and all we need to do is endorse those.
Okay, so I want to talk about this, just really that process, okay, because if you look at that Charlotte, North Carolina consumer, okay, if you think about it, the Charlotte, North Carolina consumer, if they're in market for a late model Yukon, typically they're going to do a local search first. If you look at Charlotte, you do a search for North Carolina dealers, Chevy dealers, you can literally throw a rock in any direction and hit a Chevy dealer. So that dealer is going to, or that consumer rather, is going to typically start locally. okay? And I just did a simple Chevy dealer, Charlotte, North Carolina, to do that search. And there's some paid listings that come up at the top, and then all sorts of organic listings. And I do want to say, obviously, this Charlotte, North Carolina customer, they fall in that 89%, right? They're doing the research online. Clearly, they're very influenced by third-party reviews. So I'm going to go to the first organic search because that's typically where the consumer eyeball is going to go. And I am in no way picking on Rick Hendrick. This is a Hendrick store. So if there's any Hendrick dealers on the call, I'm not picking on you. I just want to bring this up because I see this all the time. And I think that dealers might not even realize what's happening here. Okay, so if you go to Hendrick's site, they have a very prominently listed Review Us page up on their website. Okay, clearly this page is in place to get to a consumer after they buy or after they purchase. You can see it says, take a moment to share your experience with other online shoppers by writing a review on the following review sites. So they're looking to collect reviews via this page. And they're linking out to 5 different sites. I have no idea why they decided on these sites, but likely someone told them to, right? Maybe a vendor, maybe consultants. This page is going to get in front of a prospect before they buy, right? If that North Carolina, Charlotte customer is shopping their site, they're influenced by reviews, they see a review page, they're going to go to it. And what are they going to do? They're going to want to look at reviews about that dealer before buying. My eyeballs go to Google and Yahoo, 2 of the most premier sites. And what's happening here is horrible. Okay, this dealer is slapping up some review site logos, which again I see all the time. They're essentially inviting that prospect to go elsewhere. If you link out to their Google Plus page, 3 out of the first 4 reviews are horrible, scathing, negative. 4 out of the first 5 reviews on Yahoo, horrible, right? So if 4 out of 5 consumers are not buying from a dealer because of negative reviews, guess what? You know, you just invited that consumer to expand their search and look elsewhere. So, you know, if you're going to put logos up on your site, you just have to make sure that you're on top of the content that you're linking out to, okay? Because it's that consumers are going to go here. So a very, very detrimental type of process that they have or strategy. And that consumer, they told Ely. They were looking online. They expanded their search. They got to Duke Automotive's website. They found the third-party content that was up on their site, but they didn't stop the search there. Right? They mentioned that they then looked at the reviews on their website, but then they verified them on DealerRater. And what was important to the consumer was a review history, a consistent history of reviews. They went back a year and looked at reviews. Okay? They looked at service reviews. They looked at sales reviews. This is a customer buying a late model used car. They're not going to go back and service their car there, right? They live in Charlotte. They live a plane ride away. But it was important to them to understand that this dealer, they didn't just have a few recent reviews about the business. They had a consistent history. And I think that's what's important. That's why I recommend focusing and really dominating on a handful of sites so that you can show that history, right? Ely shows it on Google, or as well as he can on Google, I should say. He's got about 20 Google reviews, but that's decent nowadays because it's kind of a challenge. But, you know, he's got almost 300 reviews on DealerRater, so it gives that consumer a good idea that that's a dealership worth doing business with. All right, and that actually takes me to the end of the slides anyway, now getting to the takeaways. So, you know, first and foremost in terms of takeaways, I think the key is that reviews do drive business. And we talked about you got to do something with those reviews, right? You got to make sure that you're leveraging them, that your salespeople are pushing them out and using them to close more appointments, ultimately to close more business, and clearly building those reviews of any kind into your advertising is a great strategy to get those consumers in the door. Leveraging review content, of course, to book more appointments. We talked all about that. Letting your customers do the talking, right? That's the key to me, is that when your customers do the talking on your online ads or on your TV ads or radio ads, by sharing that third-party content, that's oftentimes what prospects want to hear. And then, of course, promoting the positive to give your customers a reason to do business with you.
Heather, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I didn't know Heather. Heather was introduced to me, by the way, all of you people out there. And it's not the first time or even the second time that somebody, a dealer has said to me, when are you going to do a webinar on reputation management? Boy, oh boy, did I find the right speaker today. Let me tell you. Thank you so much, Heather. That was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Looking forward to getting to those questions from our audience. In just a minute, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. So it's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, well, I announced that our good friends at DealerRater are giving away a great prize today on the webinar. Only one of you is going to be winning an iPad mini today. It's valued at $350. All you have to do is answer a question and be the first one to write in the correct response, and you'll be walking away with this iPad mini. This is one of those days I wish I was able to win the prize, but alas, I am not. It falls upon you, my valued audience, so saunter up to your keyboard. Here we go. The question's coming your way. Good luck, everyone. Okay, the question is, what are the two websites that Bozard Ford decided to focus and build their reviews on? They mentioned two sites. I need you to name them both. And we have a winner! We have a winner! Yay! Oh my gosh, look at how many people entered the contest. Everyone wants to win. But alas, there can only be one winner. And today, good friend of the show, I recognize the name, Fallon Price. You are the first person to write in the name. She wrote in DealerRater and Google, and that is correct. Fallon Price, write on in and let us know what dealership you're from so we can give you a proper send-off. And let me tell you, Fallon, this is not a light-up pen, my friend. That is a good prize. Fallon is from Land Rover Flat Irons. Thank you so much, everyone, for playing along today. Congratulations, Fallon. And, of course, we want to also thank DealerRater for their incredible generosity. That was awesome. And I have to say, a lot of you got the answer right, but Fallon had the quickest fingers. So here we go. Let me write this down. Land Rover Flat Irons. Okay. We are going to get to our first question from the audience. Heather, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. First question comes to us from, oh no, you have to put it on the one with your face on it. Come on, put it on the right slide. First question comes to us.
Sorry.
First question comes to us from Andy. And Andy asks, can DealerRater reviews be written by customers in the showroom? Oh, that's a good question. Can they write them in the showroom? I remember there was for a little while there, people were keeping like iPads out, or maybe an iPad mini, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Fallon, in the showroom, and actually asking people while they were there in the showroom, top of mind, to write a review. So can you do that?
Yeah, so DealerRater has never allowed that. Actually, in our entire history, we certainly could have at any time, but the way that we feel about third-party content, we're pretty passionate about this, is that third-party content of any sort should be written in the privacy of the consumer's home or business. And the way I look at it is this, Ileana, if you went to dinner tonight at your favorite restaurant,
yeah,
right, and you had a great meal, you're finishing up your glass of wine, would the waiter ever come over to you, drop a check on your table and an iPad and say, Ileana, can you write a review about me on Yelp?
No, but they do sometimes leave those cards on the table.
Absolutely. And that is what we recommend. We recommend giving the consumer a card and saying, hey, when you get home, do you mind writing a review about me on Google or Edmunds or DealerRater? Get the verbal commitment in the showroom. Absolutely, you have to do that. But you got to follow up when they're outside of the dealership. So DealerRater's never allowed it, okay? We just kind of like our philosophy is not to allow it. There was a period in time where dealers got away with it on sites like Google, because Google, like a year ago, was like the wild, wild west. You could post anything on there. Google has really cracked down, as most of you know, on their filter process. So, and they actually, right in their terms of use, talk about not using a kiosk. So you got to be really careful there. You don't want to write reviews in the showroom, certainly on DealerRater, but also Google and Yelp. It's a big, big no-no. They're going to take down those reviews and flag them.
Right. Oh boy. But it's such. You wouldn't even put it at service or like in the little lounge area where people wait for their, service cars? You wouldn't even do that?
To me, this is the way I look at it is, in our opinion, you should be showing these reviews to prospects before they buy, right? If you're doing that, if you're Beaux-Arts Ford, you've got reviews on your website, you're promoting reviews in your advertising, right? So you want your prospects to go check out reviews before they come in and buy. To me, that same prospect, if they buy and then all of a sudden they're asked to write that review in the showroom or in the service lounge, they're going to think it's less credible, right? Because you got your service writer over your shoulder saying, can you give me all fives? Because you know that salespeople are going to ask, can you give me all fives? You don't want to ruin the credibility of that third-party data. You don't want to ruin it. So I think that it's so much better for the consumer and for the dealer if you get the verbal in the showroom, but then get it actually done outside of the showroom. It's harder. I'm not going to lie to you. It's harder, but it's more credible. So I think it's ultimately, we're in automotive here, right? People are expecting you to be shady, unfortunately. So if you have those kiosks, it triggers the shady alarm.
Gotcha. Okay, by the way, before we get to the next, we have some really great questions coming up, Heather. Before we get to the next question, I did want to give everyone an idea. I don't know if you guys are doing this yet, but earlier, Heather, when you were talking about having that like 3-ring binder with all the reviews on it, like sitting on your salespeople's desks, that's a great idea. But I came up with this idea because I'm sitting and I'm looking around and I have one here. What if you took one of those digital photo frames and then you put that on your desk and you could have your reviews like come up and then you can update it, of course, right? So your reviews come up and then you can have it like interspersed with pictures of happy customers in their new cars. And you just leave that sitting on your desk and plug it in.
I absolutely love that. I love that. In fact, I've never heard that. That's a you should patent that.
Oh, really? I'm here to
help. That's a great idea.
Uh-oh, we already got people writing an amazing idea. Rocket. Okay, here we go.
It is. That's fantastic. I'm writing that down. All
right, cool.
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Next question comes to us from JR. Very early in your presentation, Heather, you were talking about, when those reviews come in, especially on Google, that you can respond publicly on Google to those reviews. So JR wants to know, how do you respond publicly on Google?
Oh, a great question. It's not the easiest thing to find, actually, but you absolutely can respond publicly on Google. It used to be easy. You could find the link right in places. I've noticed that they've moved the link around quite a bit. But typically, and I can't pull up my screen in front of me, if you go into the place page, right, or into the plus page, or whatever it is called now, it's typically where it says log in, or there might be a link that says report this review or flag this review. It allows you to kind of click into a link, which will bring you to a page that's like a login page for Google. And I believe as a dealer, you need to create a login, okay, so that you can actually get in there and access the reviews and respond to them. But if you poke around in the Places page, you will absolutely be able to find a link in there that allows you to essentially log in and post public. And if you have any problems, email me directly or call me, and I can walk you through it.
Perfect. And then Nicole said there's a respond link right under the review. So thank you very much for that, Nicole. Okay, let's get to some more of these questions. JR, I hope that helped you out. Casey wrote in, he says, how do I go about contacting a third party to implement my testimonials on our website? I'm not even sure where to start with that. Thanks.
Okay, good question. So how do you go about contacting a third party? So
to implement their testimonials on their website.
Okay, great question. So I'll tell you what we do, and I don't know if other third parties do this, but what we do is we create a little bit of JavaScript, and we actually give that JavaScript to the dealer to give to the website vendor, or we get right in touch with the website vendor and have them implement that code. That's what DealerRater does. Now, I have a feeling like Google or Yelp or Edmunds, it might not be that easy. what you might have to do is set up API access with them. And that's, essentially it's not going to be as easy for you to do as JavaScript. But again, what you should do, or at least a starting point is, if it's Yelp or if it's Edmunds, email them and say, can somebody contact me, or try to get an email dialogue saying, look, I want to showcase some of your reviews up on our site. How do I go ahead and get this done? If you're using DealerRater now, if you're certified, just contact me because we could do it for you. If you're not certified, I don't have that control to do that.
Gotcha. All right. And Heather, just to expand on this, would you in fact do that if you weren't, let's say, monitoring your reviews that are coming in, like that one dealership who obviously wasn't monitoring it because they had too many bad reviews?
Yeah, no, clearly. I mean, that's the thing is I think that no, I certainly wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it unless you know that that's one of the sites that you're currently actively focused on. So
okay.
I don't really like just tossing up logos on the site because, again, you don't want people leaving your site, to go on another site. You want to try to contain them. But again, what I would do, and oftentimes what I see dealers do, is they say, okay, I'm focused on 2 to 3 review sites. I'm going to have that content showing up on my site. And what we do is we give dealers the ability to put, you can decide, all right, I want all my 4-star and above reviews on my website, or I want to open it up and have all of my reviews on my website. It really depends on what the dealer wants.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, Casey, I hope that helped you out. And this next question, I got to say, she hit it on the head. This is not something I have not heard before. And Danielle wrote in a question that will probably speak to a lot of dealers right now. She said, we received a negative review back in 2010 on Yelp, and now all of the positive ones since then have been filtered out. Any idea how we can fix this? This is not the first time I've heard this. Heather, have you heard about this?
Yeah, and Yelp is they're really challenging for dealers. They're not. When I think of Yelp, I go to Yelp if I want to look at restaurants, if I want to look at hotels, and unfortunately, they're not friendly to automotive. Their process is not friendly. Yelp's philosophy is that they don't want anybody asking a customer to write a review on Yelp. They want people to find Yelp on their own and write a review. The name itself kind of shows you what kind of reviews are. I mean, Yelp is not a positive type of name. But here's what happens: is if you direct customers to Yelp to write positive reviews, and they're not Yelpers, meaning they're not active users of Yelp, people that go in and write reviews about restaurants and hotels and day spas, that review will go on to Yelp, but it will be considered a filtered review, and it won't be prominently listed because they only show reviews from Yelpers. So how to combat that would be when you're going through the process of asking a consumer to write a review. Let's say you're focused on Google, DealerRater, and Yelp. You have to ask the question, hey, are you an active user of Yelp? That seems such a clunky way to go about it, but you have to do that. You have to say, are you a Yelper? And if they are a Yelper, they'll say, yeah, I am. And that's who you'd need to ask to write a Yelp review. Otherwise, it's not going to do you any good.
Because Dave wrote in, he says the same thing happens on Google Plus too. And he yeah, it's not the first time I've heard it, unfortunately. It's like, but then again, we talked about this earlier. If you had all positive reviews, it wouldn't look real. So maybe the 1 or 2 not so good reviews, especially if there's a response to it. Especially if there's a response to it.
Definitely. I think, unfortunately, Yelp, if you're not asking somebody to write a review, then it's going to be ticked off people that think to write a review. So
right.
Dealers are definitely, I think they have more of a challenge with Yelp than they do with Google. Some news on Google, and it's not coming straight from Google, but I follow a lot of the blogs. I saw a recent post referring to Google reviews, and you are right. They used to have, or they have had for the past about year, a really strict filter process. They want consumers to be a Google Plus user, not just a Google Plus user, an active Google Plus users. So they're kind of taking the same road that Yelp took, is we're only going to keep these reviews up on our site if it's somebody who actively uses Google Plus. And I don't really know anybody who actively uses Google Plus. So I heard, as of recently, the past couple of weeks, they're letting back the leash a bit, and they're letting some of those reviews stick. They're some of the old. So pay attention to that. Take a look. Don't be too discouraged, because I heard that Google's starting to loosen up a little bit.
Right, right. Well, Dave wrote in, DealerRater does an amazing job at making our reviews show up on our website. They make it easy for us. Thank you very much for that comment, David. And Danielle, great question. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I know a lot of dealers were perking up when I read that question from you. Next question comes to us from Danny. He says, outside of DealerRater, in your opinion, what website is currently and going forward the most important to get reviews posted on? I know what I would say, but Heather, he's asking for your opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, let me think about this for a second. Certainly Google. I mean, unfortunately, they are like the big bad monster. You know, everybody goes to Google to search for information. So you have to look good on Google, okay? So it's a struggle, but you really need to make sure that you do have. Here's the thing with Google. You don't need a ton of reviews. You have to just make sure you're within that, 4.5 star mark, okay? And they went back to the star rating recently. So I think Google is definitely, just because of who they are and the vehicle where most consumers do their research, it is certainly that site. But here's the other thing, I think. In terms of using content offensively, okay, if you want to really get the most out of the reviews that you're building, then you want them to be on a site where you can kind of show yourself looking much better than the other dealers around you, okay? So I'd say Edmunds, strangely enough, because if you go to Edmunds, yes, and this is why. If you go to Edmunds and you search for, let's say, Honda dealers in Charlotte on Edmunds, there probably aren't a lot of dealers with Edmunds reviews yet. So if you're a Honda dealer in Charlotte and you start to build all these reviews on Edmunds, you're going to start really standing out in the crowd as the dealer to do business with. So in my opinion, I would gravitate more towards the site where you can show comparison of how you rank versus another dealer. That's to me. Maybe cars.com is another one, because Cars has the inventory on there, so people are shopping for used cars on cars.com. They're shopping multiple dealers. If your dealership has more reviews than the other, that's a good thing. So I'd say maybe Edmunds, and then second to that, Cars.
There you go. Danny, I hope that helped you out. Okay, last question. It's a doozy. Comes for us from George, who, of course, the prince was named after. So, George, thank you very much for this next question. He says, are QR codes the best strategy for encouraging consumers from submitting reviews from their smartphones? Unfortunately, many of the review sites really aren't mobile friendly. I have to say, I have to agree with George. What do you think, Heather?
Yeah, I would agree too. I'd like to think, because QR codes certainly are an easy method for it, but unfortunately, if you're focused on, and you're trying to focus on the sites that are impacting your reputation, and they're not mobile friendly, then you're going to have a real challenge with that process. What I would say, I mean, really, as simple as it sounds, the best process I've seen in place for collecting reviews has been for the salespeople and the service writers each to have a stack of cards, okay? And they can be a homegrown card that your dealership creates. They can be, let's say, cards that you get from a third-party vendor. But these cards essentially are request cards. They're going to request you to write a review. You might have a couple different logos on these cards, and you're asking the consumer to write the review. The thing about the cards is that you're making a personal request, right? You just closed that consumer. You're just finishing up with that consumer. You shake their hand. You give them a card. You say, Mr. Customer, I so enjoyed working with you. If it's not too much trouble, do you mind sharing a review when you get home on one of these sites, right? You give them the card. They're going to say yes. right? But ultimately, they're going to stick that card in their pocket and forget all about you because they're happy. If they're ticked off, then they're going to remember you. But they're happy, so they're going to forget about you. And then a day or two later, you say, Mr. Customer, again, so great to work with you. Thank you so much for agreeing to write a review. Here's a link to make it easier. And if you have 3 logos on that card, say you have DealerRater, Google, and Yelp, you send them the link to whatever site you want them to post on. If you need to build reviews on Google, you send the link to Google. If it's Edmunds, you send the link to Edmunds. But what that does is it gets to the consumer at home or at work, and they think, oh, I forgot to write a review for Eliana. You know, and they click on the link, takes them right where they need to be, and they post. So that's what I see as the strategy that works the most.
And with that, we're going to start closing out the show. George, thank you for the great question. And Heather, whoop, whoop, awesome, awesome. Awesome webinar. Thank you so much. So glad you came and did this webinar with me. And I want to remind the audience that a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Please share it with friends and colleagues. You're going to need to. And today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. So just go to dealeron.com/webinars and click on the link on the right-hand side for on-demand webinars. And from there you can access any of our past webinars. Hey, you can also view and register for any of our upcoming webinars too. And at the conclusion of this webinar in just a moment, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. We just talked about reviews. So what we want from you, we want some great reviews on what Heather did today. So please let us know how you thought she did. And today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. What's not to love? Now, invitations are going to be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. 8 proven steps to implement your newest strategy and strengthen teamwork. And this is going to be with Glenn Posh. There you go. He has a great new strategy, and then you take your great new strategy and you add some awesome teamwork, and you're supposed to get amazing success, right? Yeah, it's not that simple, is it? It's simple. It's just not that easy. Many dealers get focused on a new strategy or procedure, but then they fail to add a system to get their team to execute it properly, and they waste countless hours and far too many dollars before frustration sets in, and then you scrap the new strategy altogether. Has this happened to you? Well, guess what? It probably has, and Glenn Posh, CEO of PCG Digital Marketing, is here to help. In this 1-hour webinar, he's going to explain his proven 8-step training process. It's going to make it easy for you to get your team on board, make it easy for your team to apply the knowledge, make it easy for you to hold your team accountable, and make it easy for your team to repeat their success month after month. Sounds like a good deal to me. So if you're finally ready to replace worry and stress with the comfort of knowing your team is well trained for success, then this is one webinar you just can't afford to miss. It's going to be another can't miss presentation by your friends at DealerOn. And don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some awesome webinar subjects planned for this year. But if you have any questions or comments or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, please contact me directly. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio. I love hearing from you. You can email me at eliana@dealeron.com or track me down online, Facebook, Twitter, on any of the automotive social networks. I'm on them all. And I hope to hear from you. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today. And I hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one.